one of the criticisms of HEX, or one of the factors that makes a lot of people nervous, and a question I'm asked all the time, is aren't you scared that the HEX origin address owns, between 80 and 90% of the total supply of HEX? And a lot of people say, well, that's probably Richard Hart, and his plan is to rug pull the product. So if you ignore the fact that on-chain data and chain analysis shows that every action of the OA has been benevolent to the HEX product, and you just, I guess, look at the man and look at the motives and look probabilistically at what's likely and what's unlikely. So the story about Richard Hart is that he retired in his 20s, very wealthy. He got into Bitcoin in 2011, bought a lot and mined a lot, so he's probably very wealthy from that. And all of that predated his involvement and establishment of HEX as a financial product, as well as the development of Pulse Chain and PulseX. So this, at face value, is someone who wouldn't need the money to, rug pull his own project. But let's go back and assume there's some inaccuracies. So let's assume he didn't retire early and he was never wealthy. And then let's assume he never got into Bitcoin early, and that's just not true. What we know for sure is that during the launch of HEX, the origin address or addresses connected to it received 3 million Ethereum. We're in a bear market, maybe on the way out of it, maybe not. But 3 million Ethereum has a price or a worth at the moment of about $4 billion. So this is $4 billion of value that Richard Hart, or the owner of the OA, or the controller of the OA, whoever that is, could spend guilt-free with zero tarnishment of their reputation. And that's assuming that early Bitcoin adoption and retiring wealthy in his 20s is not true at all, which is probably a stretch. And then look at Pulse Chain and PulseX. If you look at the PulseX sacrifice address, where the stablecoin holdings from those sacrifices, both Pulse and PulseX, are now held, there is $279 million worth of DAI. So now we have an entity that, before you even mention HEX, Pulse and PulseX, owns or has control of around $4 billion worth of Ethereum. And remember, Richard Hart called the Ethereum top near $5,000, as well as 279 million DAI, so 279 million US dollars. And yet the current HEX USDC liquidity is around $10 million mixed between Ethereum and USDC. So to sell all of the OA tokens, which chain analysis shows has never occurred before in 3 years, Richard Hart, if he is in fact the OA, if he is in fact in control, or whoever is in control, if the OA or the PulseX sacrifice address, if they were to sell all of the HEX available to them, they would be able to extract around $10 million. But between the PulseX sacrifice phases and the HEX adoption amplifier, they probably have over $4 billion US dollars. So if you just go back to what's probabilistic here, is it likely that a coin founder, a public coin founder, exit scams his entire community for $10 million when potentially has access to over $4 billion? I think people just need to really think about what is likely. Think about the man, the motives, and just get into the detail.